Pop quiz, true or false? Communication is important for business success. That will be true. Next question, true or false? All business communication is equally important. That will be false. In fact, not only is not all communication in business equally important, some of it is straight up annoying, and a lot of it is just disposable. It's tempting to just become a hermit and focus on the next big project or sales contract or whatever big thing is on your plate. But tunnel vision when it comes to communication is not wise either. Whether you're a solo operator, or whether you're leading a team or leading a massive operation or a huge company, how do we stay focused on the communication that actually matters? Let's talk about that. Welcome to the Story Greenlight podcast, where we're all about helping professional advisors tell your stories so that you can serve more clients and expand your impact in the world. My name is Jeff Bartsch. I am a communicator and marketing strategist with over 20 years of experience working with ABC, NBC, Universal, Disney, Apple, and thousands of students and clients around the world. At Story Greenlight, we believe that real people trust real people and that human connection is everything. We all communicate every day of our lives. As soon as we start talking, it never stops. And this happens in our own personal lives, this happens in business, and like many things in life, too much of a good thing can very quickly become a bad thing. I was recently talking to a client of mine who is a partner at a good-sized financial services company, and he was saying, dude, I have 8 different channels for communication, at least. He says, I have Slack, I have Microsoft Teams, which have their own channels. I have my own phone line. I have Zoom meetings. I have texting with my cell phone. I have messages that go back and forth on project management platforms. I have email. And I was listening to him talk, and I'm thinking that I'm even adding to the issue, because in my interactions with my private client, one of the things we do is interact with Marco Polo, which is asynchronous video chat. And he's saying, okay, I have all these things. And even with just email, he said, I thought we were making some progress when we figured out, I was under the impression that email was supposed to be external communication only. And the next thing you know, the office staff is sending out an email saying, there are donuts in the kitchen. And he's going, gah! What's too much communication, too much. And I was thinking about this whole thing, and I'm going, you know what? We all have a lot of donuts in the kitchen emails. And I'm not here to dump on the office manager who sent that email. I mean, they probably did that with the very best of intentions to make sure that as many people as possible could know that there are tasty treats in the break room. And over the next few days, here's where my train of thought went. Is a donut in the kitchen email or communication, is that going to set a strategic vision for your company, or is it going to create a new revenue stream? No. But do donut in the kitchen emails or communications, do those actually have any value? And of course, the answer is yes, they do. I mean, they promote positive company culture, they help internal morale and that kind of a thing. And I was thinking that it's kind of like certain internal communications, like on Slack channels and on certain teams that I work with, there are different channels that you interact with for different purposes. And in certain places, on certain teams that I've worked with, they have the random channel where you can just post ridiculous memes or inside jokes or stuff like that. And posting some memes on the random Slack channel, that stuff goes a long way towards laughing at the same jokes and helping remote teams or distributed teams feel connected. Now, those random, low, fluffy but fun kind of communications, they are not the relationship itself, but they support it. It's kind of like the text string on my phone between me and my wife. It has a lot of inconsequential, fluffy exchanges on it, a lot of jokes, but that communication stream supports the single most important relationship in my life, aside from my relationship with God. My brain started thinking about that and, the comparison of Slack channel memes and joke texts with my wife. And I started thinking, joke texts with team members or with my wife support the relationship, but they are not the high impact, the communications that shape the relationship. Which made me wonder, what are the communications that had a huge impact in our relationship? I came up with some ideas and I ran them by Chantel one night after dinner. Chantel is my wife. And here's some things that came out of that conversation. We realized that high impact communications in our marriage are almost always tied to specific moments in time. And high impact moments in our personal relationship, I realized, also have corresponding moments in business. And this really shouldn't be much of a surprise because marriage is two people working together with their own storylines. They're joined together to create one storyline, ideally, as a marriage. And you have a bigger, much more complex version of that in a business. You have people living their lives coming together in the context of a business, and that creates a shared storyline. And just like in a marriage, marriage is people being together. Marriage is sustained by people. And in the same way, business, a lot of people might say business runs by the numbers, but the fact is that business is sustained by people, specifically people interacting with other people internally and externally as the business serves its people. And the fact is, when you look at it, business is human relationship. Within that context, these are the high impact moments that Chantel and I came up with. We came up with the idea of beginnings, big requests, conflict, transitions, and endings. Now, one of the tools that I have discovered in the last year, which has been a game changer for me, is something called the ABT framework. ABT is a framework that stands for and, but, therefore. And it comes from the work of a gentleman by the name of Randy Olson. I first heard about it from a podcast by Park Howell. He has his Business of Story podcast where he talks about ABT fairly regularly. And so let's use the ABT on this scenario right here. Here's what the big picture of business communication looks like. Looks like something like this. I think that we should start something together, and taking things to the next level would be good for both of us. And a lot of the time it is. But at some point, we're going to run into disagreements or problems. And if we don't fix them, things could get bad. Therefore, let's change what we're doing or transition into something different. And hopefully that will fix things and things will continue instead of ending. And we'll all find the change and the transformation that we're looking for. But therefore. So let's start unpacking some of these things. The comparison between a marriage and a business. And people are saying, I don't like where this is going, but trust me, you'll see how it fits together. So we're talking about beginnings, the idea of saying, hey, let's start something together. Now, with the personal side of things, this began with me meeting my wife, the woman who was going to become my wife. We were actually at a self-development seminar in Las Vegas, of all places, which some people find that ironic in and of itself. And there was a moment where Chantel was sitting in a chair in the middle of a circle of about 50 people. And the leader of the group was talking about things that she wanted to change that Chantel wanted to change in her life. And the leader of the group knew that Chantel was single and wanted to not be single. So the leader said, all right, so how many single men are in this room right now who are interested in not being single? And there were some guys who raised their hand, but for some reason, and to this day, I could not tell you why. Instead of raising my hand like everyone else, I stood up. I was the only person in the whole room standing up, and everyone just immediately started looking straight at me. And I'm going, what did I just do? And Chantel's looking at me, what did that guy just do? And oh, crap. Now everyone knows that he's going to come up to me. What's he going to say? And I'm thinking, dude, everyone knows I have to go up to her and talk to her after this session is over. What am I going to say? And I was kicking myself because I knew that I had to go talk to her, and I knew that the conversation could be important. If anything was to happen, this first conversation was going to be important. And she was expecting some direct request or a lame line. And I found out later, I just won some serious cool points by just backing off by what I said. I didn't go up to her afterwards with some kind of a slick line. I said, hey, I know we're both here, haven't met, we don't know much about each other yet, but I just like to get to know you better. And she told me sometime later that she really appreciated the low-key, low-pressure, not making a big ask right at the beginning. That was the first impression that I made on the woman that I ended up marrying. And there is a corollary to that, of course, in business. It happens in external ways, and it also happens in internal ways. Of course, external communication, first impressions in business, it's all about marketing, brand awareness, demand generation, and becoming lead generation. And all this is about the idea of increasing awareness and making small asks, small requests. If you're making any requests at all beyond, hey, could I have a moment of your attention to tell you about, hey, we exist, that kind of a thing. Just small ask for attention. And so that might happen in the external way. First impressions on people visiting a website, hearing a speaker for a first time, hearing about a company for the first time, first interaction when connecting on social media. By the way, might I just put this plug in here? Please stop making direct asks right away on social media. It doesn't work. People do it to me all the time, and I hear stories of people doing it to other people all the time. And I've yet to hear someone say, oh, I just love cold pitches on LinkedIn. I just loved cold pitches in email. No, please. Small asks. Be cool. Don't go up to the girl in the bar and immediately say, hey, let's get married. No. Bad idea. So this happens externally in business. It also happens internally with things like hiring process and onboarding new clients. First impressions are often very important when it comes to ongoing relationships. So we have the first impression. We have the introduction, and we're on each other's radar, whether it's in a personal scenario or a business scenario. And at some point, you have a big request. Or in other words, let's take things to the next level. Now that looks different ways for different people. And personally, between my wife and I, my marketing awareness ended up having some bumps, especially at the beginning. Chantel and I did not stay in touch after that first seminar, that weekend seminar kind of thing. And it turned out later, she thought that I was an arrogant jerk and completely full of myself. And in her defense, I was. I've been accused of being overly confident, overly self-involved. And she's also told me that she's used to dating guys who were not as confident as I. So that self-assured, sometimes self-absorbed kind of vibe, that actually became a good thing down the road. Point is, though, eventually, after some bumps, we did reconnect, and we started emailing back and forth, then started calling each other, and then we started calling each other every single day. And after a while there came a big request. I decided that I wanted to ask her to marry me. And so what I did, I planned out this thing where we had actually been dating long distance. She'd been living in Cleveland for many years, and I'd been living in Los Angeles for 20 years. Oh, that wasn't 20 years at that point. I'd been out there for a good number of years already. And we really had to decide, okay, if this is going to happen, we need to be specific and we need to be intentional about this. Otherwise, let's just not waste each other's time. So we became intentional about this. And the first time she came out to visit me, I met her at the airport, and I had a friend of mine with who's a cinematographer, and he had a great cinema camera, not just a video camera, a cinema, straight up cinema movie camera. And he did a hidden camera shoot of me meeting Chantel at the airport for the first time that she came to visit me. And I put footage of that together into a video with pictures of us together, us meeting together for the first time in Los Angeles at LAX. And I did a voiceover of a Shakespearean sonnet, would you believe? And all this came together with special pieces of music, one from a movie that I liked and one from a movie that she liked. And the video ended with a title card saying, "Will you marry me?" And I was kneeling on the floor in front of her as she was watching the video, presenting a ring. She said yes. That was the big request. That was a very specific moment that I made the big request. So in business, of course, we have that external version of sales. It's not just marketing one to many. It's a far more focused thing of, okay, you're not just a marketing qualified lead, you're a sales qualified lead. Okay, do you want to buy? Would you like to work with us? Would you like us to help you? That kind of a thing. That is the corollary to let's get married, let's move in, let's do this kind of a thing. And the internal version of this in business ends up with HR. Would you like to work here? Is this something you're interested in? We would like to offer you this position. And later, it can turn up in terms of company strategy. Would you like to invest in our company? Or maybe even at some point, would you like to buy this company? Those are the first two steps in the relationship development between people, or the relationship within people in a business or outside the business. We have the idea of beginnings. Let's start something. And we have the idea of big requests. Let's take this to the next level. And a lot of the times that works. And that's what happens. And everyone goes about their way and everyone goes home happy. And the thing is, for as often as that happens, we also know that in personal relationships and business, it's not always that simple. In fact, in any scenario where you have people interacting with other people, at some point you will have disagreements. You will have conflict. And this should not surprise anyone. You know, as I always tell people, conflict is a primary element of any story. And it's a pretty boring story if there's no conflict. And the thing is, a lot of people think that they should avoid conflict. Whoa, well, conflict is bad. But the fact is, conflict doesn't exist in a vacuum. It changes things, which is another core element of any good story. Sometimes things change for the better, and sometimes things just get plain ugly. Would you believe my wife and I have conflict, just like business has conflict? And we're going to dig into that next time, along with what we can do about that conflict. Because ultimately, conflict is the vehicle that brings the change we're all looking for.